Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alyssa if you don't know me, and I am a musician who also likes to talk about the books that I read. And I had a bit of a crazy week this week, which is why I'm a bit behind on my weekly update. I did a ton of painting. Here's a little clip of me doing some cutting. So yeah, that's why I haven't kept strictly to the weekly update, because I've just been exhausted the last couple days, because when we get home from painting, if I have any energy at all, I will practice, and then so this video just kept getting pushed to the side. But I had a really good reading week. I'm reading way more than I used to because I actually finished 2 books this week, which I can't remember the last time I actually finished 2 books in a week. Granted, one was an audiobook, but I still count audiobooks as reading. It's just a different experience. So to start off with, if you watched my video last week, I was reading The Violin Conspiracy, and I finished it. So I'm going to put little markers for spoilers. If you want to read this and read it for yourself and you don't want me to spoil it, I'll put it so that you don't see if my prediction was right or not. So I made a prediction last week of who I thought stole the violin. So I was right. I was so happy that I was right. I guessed it on page 10 because at the beginning in the first chapter, the violin goes missing, and of course Ray, the main character, he can't sleep because his baby is missing, and his girlfriend just like doesn't care and falls asleep immediately. So I was like, okay, red flag, she fell asleep without a care in the world. And then the other red flag was in the first chapter, they mention how the only people that have access to the violin is Ray and the girlfriend. So I'm like, well, of course it's going to end up being the girlfriend. Who else would it be? And so I won't do a huge in-depth of like my review of the book. I think I might do like a summary at the end of all the books I finished, but mainly I think I'm gonna give this 3 stars. I liked it, especially as a musician. I love the music aspects and how he has commentary on the racism within the musical world. But my downfalls were like I could tell it was a first book because all of the characters were very like two-dimensional. Like it wasn't fleshed out, you know, like Nicole, she barely had any lines and she had like no personality to her whatsoever. So that was another okay, she has to be the stealer because there's nothing to this character. He's trying to not draw attention to her. And the mother was just, she made me very angry, but she was just a huge caricature. Like there was only one side to her. Like she was just a bitch and that was it. Like, so I did enjoy it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. So I know he has another book. I'm not sure if I'm gonna read his second book. We'll see how I feel. If people tell me I really need to read it, then I will. But so that was this book. So okay start to the month. Oh, and another positive was I couldn't, I guess it would be a positive. I couldn't put it down because I wanted to know who did it. And like, I don't know if I would call that a positive or a negative because I really wanted to know who did it. So that's why I kept reading it. But I was disappointed because it's marketed as like a mystery thriller, but the actual mystery thriller part of the book only takes up like 30 pages. The rest is just his backstory. So that what I think was another reason why I was disappointed is because I wanted more mystery out of it, and the little mystery that was there, like I guessed it immediately. So I think that's my main disappointment with the book. So then next, I finished that. I focused on reading that. So then I've gone back to reading Words of Radiance. Of course, I've been keeping track. I have read. I read about 50 pages this week. I mostly read yesterday and the day before after I finished that. After I finished The Violin Conspiracy. But 5 stars. I'm liking this more than The Way of Kings. I don't want to get too much into it. Like, I don't want to give any spoilers. I guess same thing I can do. I'll put timestamps, so if you don't want to get spoiled about it, you can skip through. But I just finished. Oh, I just finished the chapter with Kaladin. He has this like gut feeling that something's going to go wrong because there's a high storm, and so he takes Dalinar, the king, and everyone out. He wants to bring them somewhere else, and they come in contact with the assassin in white. And I think I've said before, I don't really do anything while I'm reading. I'm pretty like plain Jane, like no emotion, no whatsoever when I'm reading. But Kaladin's arm, I don't know if that's going to be a permanent thing or not. I said, oh my god, what? What is happening here? And I think that's it. Oh, yeah. The chapter ends with there's a door opening and him and the assassin in white fall through it. So it ends on a bit of a cliffhanger. So that's where I'm at in this book. I think I'm almost at the end of part 2 of the book. So yeah, 5 stars. I don't see how this isn't going to be 5 stars, and I can't wait to read the rest of the series. I saw Brandon Sanderson's latest video about where he's at in the 5th one, so I think he's on like the 3rd revision of the book, so the book should be coming out by the end of this year, so super excited for that. And then next, so those were my physical books. Oh, the second book that I finished was my audiobook, and that was The Drawing of the Three. So I finished this on audiobook, and I love this even more than the first one. The Gunslinger I gave 4 stars, but I'm giving this 5 stars. Or I want to give it like 4.75. I really don't like how much he uses the N-word, like because he's a white writer. You know, you can use it a couple times for effect in a book or, you know, to have meaning, but I feel like he overuses the word. Like, as I was reading, it could be too because I'm listening to it as an audiobook, so it's really jarring. And because the narrator is also white, so it's just really jarring to listen to. But I feel like as he's writing, he's like, well, I can't say the word, but I can write it as much as I want. Like, that's the feeling I get because of how much he's used it. Like, once or twice is okay, but there was one chapter where it was like in like a minute he used the word like 4 times. I'm like, okay, this is like enough. Like, I get what you're going for, you don't need to overuse the word. But other than that, I really enjoy the book. I love the concept. Like, I had no idea what the Dark Tower series was about. I just knew it was like a fantasy type series, so really loving it so far. So I finished this one, and I've started the audiobook of the 3rd one, and this morning I got to about 30% in, and same thing, loving it. I'm gonna be giving this one 5 stars unless, you know, if we have the same issue as the last one. And then I have, so for the 4th and 5th book, because this is how crazy I am with buying books and I'm all over the place, I have the 4th and the 5th one in actual copies, so I think I'm going to take a break from the audiobooks and read the 4th and 5th one, just because I have them, so I may as well make use of them. And then, so those are my physical books and audiobooks, so I'm going to continue reading the 3rd one, obviously, on audiobook. And then for my ebooks, I haven't been touching it much. I find it really hard to actually go to the ebook since I'm starting to read my physical book more. But here and there when I'm in the car and whatnot, sometimes I'll pull out my ebook, and I've read a few pages of The Left Hand of Darkness. I feel like this week I read like maybe another like 20 pages total. And this one, it's okay. I'm not in love with it or anything. Like, I don't hate it. I don't love it. Like, right now it's sitting at a 3, I think. I'm still because I haven't read much more, I'm still having the issue of there's just so many names, like place names and people names that are just thrown at me without really any context, so I'm kind of confused as to where the main character is in the story. I'm like, okay, they're going to a random another city, and like the book doesn't have a map or anything, so it's really hard to know like what's going on, where the character is. I'm just like, okay, they're at a random like place I've never heard of. Like, there's no context given to what this place is, where it's situated in the world. I think that's what it is with the world building. The Ursula K. Le Guin, she doesn't really describe enough, for me anyways, she doesn't describe enough what the world looks like, so I can't get a good idea of where any of these places are. But so I don't hate it, don't love it. We'll have to see where it goes. I'm about 120 pages into the book, I think, and it's 450 pages, so I'm like a quarter of the way through the book. What else did I want to talk about? Was there anything else I wanted to talk about? I did my ebook, I did physical books, and I did my audiobooks. Oh, I wanted to say once I'm finished, since I'm going to be reading the physical versions of the Dark Tower series, when I'm done that, I'm going to switch to reading more nonfiction as audiobooks. I want to try and savor the fictional books for actual reading, and the nonfiction I think are better suited for audiobooks. And the one that I have my eye on is Tom Felton's like memoir, I guess. I really like the celebrity audiobooks because usually the celebrities read it themselves. Like I read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy last year, and I really enjoyed that because it feels so personal that the actual person it's about is actually reading it to you, so it feels like you're having a conversation with them almost. So I think that's probably going to be my next audiobook. And I mean, I'm not going to finish Words of Radiance in a week. That's just ridiculous. I have like 800 pages left of the book, I think. But so because it's such a big book, I think I'm going to add in another physical book just to cut it up a little bit. And I am wanting to do, so I'm doing the 52 book challenge, which is really, it's getting me to read a lot more. Because I bought the journal for it, and I'm really enjoying writing in the journal, and just having one of these, it's making the experience like really fun, and it's making me want to read a lot. But because I'm doing Words of Radiance right now and I'm going to use that for a prompt, there's a book with more than 40 chapters or a book with more than 4 points of view. So I think I'm going to use Words of Radiance for that. So I'm going to, in the meantime, another prompt challenge that I want to do is I want to read more of my physical TBR. As you've seen in my last video, I think 5 TBRs that I want to read at the end of the month. I want to do the A to Z challenge, which is I'm going to do it with titles, and I want to read a book that starts with the letter A, B, C, so forth. So that's 26 books worth, and that start with the title. I mean, there's going to be a few that I don't actually own, like Z, obviously. I actually have one that starts with Q, so I have that one covered. But like the lesser known letters like V, W is actually pretty popular. Oh, X. X is another one that's going to be hard. But I think that's a fun one and I'm going to go in order. So I need A, and I actually haven't looked at anything yet, so I'm gonna pick one right now. Okay, so out of the books that I haven't read on my physical shelves, there's another bookcase that you can't see in the frame that's totally full of books that I pretty much have not read. So I had way more books that start with A than I thought I had, and there's a few that I have read, like Anna Karenina, for example. That's one that I've read. I have 8 that I actually haven't read yet. So I have a lot of choices to pick from. The first one is The Alloy of Law, which is the first one in the Mistborn series in the second trilogy, but I still need to read the last one of the first trilogy, so I do want to read the last one, so I might read that one and then get to this one. Or I have A Painted House. My grandma gave me that one. Doesn't really speak to me that much. I have All the Light We Cannot See, which I've had for a long time and I've never read. And I read Cloud Cuckoo Land by him, and I really enjoyed that. So this one is a strong contender. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. This is my boyfriend's book, and doesn't really speak to me. I know the basic gist of the story. A Train in Winter, another one my grandma gave me. It's historical fiction. It's not my favorite thing to read. I do enjoy it, but not my favorite. I do really like Outlander. I read that in my undergrad, and I really like that one, but I think because it had a bit of like sci-fi fantasy elements in it, which is why I enjoyed it. And then I have this one. I've had this one forever, and I've never read it. Unearthly Night by Janet Whitnaughton. No idea what it's about. I think my friend gave me that one. The Ambassadors by Henry James. Same thing. I'm not really in the mood for classics, you know. Like, I really think I'm leaning towards All the Light We Cannot See right now. Oh, and this one, Atlas Shrugged. As you can see, I've tried reading it. I got about halfway through. Don't know if I'll ever get to this one. It was, out of what I read, it was not my favorite. But, so it looks like for my A to Z prompt, I will probably be going with All the Light We Cannot See. But we'll see what happens. And thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.